Christian Fauria is dominating his post-career just like he did in real time during his career. We bring him in right now. He joins us, the former Patriot, former Colorado Buffalo, Christian Fauria. What's happening, bro?
I want to make sure the Super Bowl trophies are right in the picture, like just so everybody knows how cool I am, right, and how accomplished I am. This, so I give myself and the show some credibility.
Christian, well, you know what I know we're not going to find from listening to you recently? The hats and T-shirts you took home from divisional playoff games, which you said this week you wore them home, but you never know what happened.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out like a comparison for him because I just, you get them, you're excited, but if you continually wear them or showcase them, then you're just kind of like validating that's like you're happy with it. You're like, that's as good as it gets. I guess I can equate it to like when I was in college and, guys would wear their sweatsuits, their travel sweatsuits to bars and restaurants. Like, girls would find them more attractive because they were on the football team. That's kind of the way I think about it, So, but yeah, it's a cool milestone, but it's just not the goal, right? It's just one of the stepping stones to what is ultimately the Super Bowl mountain.
Hey, it beats the fact that you could also have them somewhere in a faraway continent or land if you lost the division and they had to send them over there. So
yeah,
right, it beats the alternative. When you talk about this opportunity for the Patriots to seal the deal on the division this season, I want to start from the beginning. Is this something when we kicked off in early September that you saw coming, knowing Mike Vrabel like you do?
Well, the one I knew, I want to go back and I'm trying to figure out like what I thought I had them around 9 wins, 8 or 9 wins, respectively, like in it to the end, but then losing out to some of the other AFC dominant teams like that have a longer history of success in winning with, Pro Bowl and Hall of Fame and MVP type quarterbacks like, Joe Burrow and, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. But it's been remarkable, quite frankly. And so I knew Mike was a great coach because you just saw it quickly in Tennessee. He just, and he'll use this phrase, he just connects really well with the players. And he's really smart. Like, he doesn't get enough credit for how smart he is. And then if you pair that with his passive aggressive, I want to pants you moment, like that is in him, that is inherently in him, right? He loves pantsing teams and pantsing coaches. And when I use that, I think we can all understand it. You're like, you're hanging out and somebody comes behind you and pantses you and everybody's laughing at you, right? That's what he does to coaches. He did it to Bill Belichick. He beat Bill at his own game, not because he's just a jerk, but because he studies, he finds loopholes, he understands the rule book. And then the other thing that endears his players to him is that they're part of the joke, right? They're part of these guys think they're better than us. They play the underdog role. They keep this little trick play or this, loophole rule in their back pocket. And then everybody knows it's coming. And when they come in, they use it against them. They actually changed, Pete, the timeout rule on field goals because of Mike. A lot of people don't know this. What Mike used to do is if you were trying to kick a game-winning field goal, he would, and they wouldn't have any timeouts. The team wouldn't have any timeouts. The defense wouldn't have any timeout. He would call timeout. And then the rest would run in and, hey, timeout. And then the other coach would be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, they don't have any timeouts, right? So they would forget. And that was his way of trying to ice the kicker without timeouts. I don't think anybody even recognizes that. But they changed the rule the next year. They don't call it the Mike Vrabel rule. But he used to do that to us in practice. And we would be like, yeah, you're such a dick. Like, quit it, And he would just laugh and giggle. And that was just, but he was smarter than us, you're right? And so he knew what he was doing. And he took advantage of it until somebody closed the loophole.
Do you have resentments against him for stealing some of your red zone touchdowns? Let's be real. Come on.
Thank you for bringing that up. Whenever I get an opportunity to talk about this, like here's the thing. People think that he stole my touchdowns because I was the one scoring all the touchdowns. What people forget is that the Patriots, while I was there, Pete, drafted 2 tight ends in the first round in 3 years. So in 3 years, they drafted 2 tight ends in the first round. Ben Watson wasn't even on the goal line team when he was on our team. He's a first-round pick. So I still got my touches, but what was funny is that he took Dan Graham's touches. He took Ben Watson's touches. I remember sitting there on Friday, goal line install, and Mike would run into the room, and I'm like, here's Ben Watson and Dan Graham and me. And they're taking Ben off the field. Ben played for 1,000,000 years. He was a great player.
Yeah.
They took him off. It has nothing to do with Ben. It was Bill. So, I mean, Mike, listen, he saved our ass a bunch. So I give him credit for that. But it was Bill who was the jerk.
When you look at the way that Mike Vrabel is coaching right now to such great success, has there been a thread of his coaching philosophy that you've been able to identify as something that you were able to have success under Bill Belichick with? Is there a through line there that you identify? Somebody like you is uniquely qualified to notice something like that. Have you seen anything?
Well, absolutely. So I'm a full-time professor now at Bryant University. So I'm a higher
really?
person. So I am naturally now a little bit more arrogant and and entitled. And although I don't have a number 2 pencil behind my ear, I feel like I'm a super geek.
You got the Super Bowl. You got 2 Super Bowl trophies, so that's good. Yeah.
So I teach a class on organizational leadership and communication in sport, and we spend 2 weeks just on coaching style and characteristics of great coaches, traits that they have. We compare and contrast. We have coaches come in and speak, and all the great coaches always have I have 6 characteristics, but they all have 4 of the 6 that I would like to say, and the greatest ones have all of them, right? And Mike absolutely does. Mike will never really compare himself to Bill. He'll compare himself to all his college coach, his high school coach, Romeo Crennel. He'll brag about those types of players, and he won't really use Bill as much as we all naturally would think. He just doesn't. But there's a ton of similarities between him. The number one trait that I would think, as an older player, that I really, really respected, and I was absolutely jonesing for, was just a smart, knowledgeable coach. What used to drive me crazy, and people hate that I say this, but it's the truth. When I left the Patriots, I signed for the Washington Redskins. I was like, wow, I'm going to go from Bill Belichick to Joe Gibbs. Whoa, what, out of the frying pan, into a cool drink of water. I was excited. Sat in the front row, Pete. I was amazed at how disconnected he was, not only with the players, but the knowledge of the game at the time. I was shaking my head.
This is going, 2005, right? 2006, around then?
Yeah, it was my second to last year in the league.
Yeah, he did his second tour of duty. I remember you were on one of those teams. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the team was horrible. The decision-making was inconsistent. I remember the offensive coordinator fighting with the defensive coordinator during a game. I was like, who the hell is in charge?
Dude, I remember him and Joe Bugle and a bunch of guys hovering around each other on the sidelines. It didn't seem like it was real. There was a lot of continuity there.
No, and those guys were all old, right?
Yes, very
great guys. Joe Bugles, I love him. But it was Al Saunders as the offensive coordinator, and then Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator. It was like this. It was like this.
Really?
And it was a disaster. So, when I think about his traits, as an older player, you really respect his knowledge of the game, and you understand if you get these guys, these coaches are experts in their field. They're master class type people, master surgeons, AI techs. They're the Elon Musk of their profession. They have to be experts, and a lot of them aren't. They're stupid, and that would drive me crazy as an older player, because when we get into a game, we shouldn't lose a game because you're dumb. And you're reckless, or you're calling a play because of your gut. That drove me crazy. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, every single young player says this, and this is just the way of the world. Man, if you can't relate to them, if you can't get down on their level, if you can't coach them the way they want to be coaches, they will resist. They absolutely will resist, and they will act out. And I would say those are the 2 most impressive things that I recognize from in the short period of time. We're not even at the end of the season. They still have 4 games left.
Dude, I love the idea of your class. So it's at Bryant University?
Yeah.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. Because I love that stuff. I love, for my father, it was like reading books about General Patton. For me, it's about listening to audiobooks about Bill Belichick over and over again. And even though, I want to ask you a question about that connection, because you learn more and more, even with a stoic guy like Bill Belichick. He talks about, hey, you have to connect with these guys. They have to know that you care and love them, care for them and love them. Was that the case with him? Because it's so hard to imagine that from 30,000 feet. But did you guys feel that? No. Okay.
No.
Well, that's what he says. I'm so happy I'm talking to you.
I will say this, though. People ask me about, no, I didn't have any talk. I rarely talked with him. And if we did, it was, about sports. There was never any small talk. I don't think he ever asked me about my family once. I know he didn't know how many kids I had. And I just didn't care. People ask me about Bill all the time. And I say, and I always make sure I say, for me, because I was at a time I was looking for something very specific when I was going into year 8 of my career. He provided that. I wanted brutal honesty. I wanted high-level intelligence, and I wanted a chance to win, and I wanted a competitive environment, and I wanted a locker room that wasn't filled with a bunch of knuckleheads. I was just done with it. So going into that locker room, listen, he gave me everything I wanted, so I could care less if he never said anything to me. I knew if I was doing a good job, I knew when I was doing a bad job. My relationship, was really with my position coach, Jeff Davidson, who I actually have what I call a Jeff Davidson rule. He'll get a kick out of this in my class. This is because it was something that he used to say to us every day before we went out into the field, and I incorporated that into my class for projects, announcements, presentations, scheduling. And they all know what the Jeff Davidson rule is. You can ask all of them and they'll say, oh, this is what it means. We hate it. But Bill he was fine, but he's not putting his arm around you. He's not asking you, hey, are you okay? He's not doing any of that stuff. But that's what the other coaches and the assistant coaches are for.
So can you tell me I'm not the brightest bulb. What exactly is the Jeff Davidson rule?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I probably should have told you.
Yeah.
That's why you're the host. Okay.
Hey, I'm paying attention. I promise. I'm on every word here.
When I was playing for the Patriots, so Jeff would go over all this stuff. He would put all these plays in. He would say, you're this guy, you're the F, you're the H, you're going to take these speed, you're going to be the goal line Y, you're going to do this. On third down, you're going to do this. He would give us all this information, tons of information and direction. So we knew exactly what was expected of us, right? Spent the whole day doing this. And before we walked out of the meeting room, he would say, of course, everything is subject to change.
That's life.
And exactly, that is life. And, and it would change. Even if it was playing time, hey, I'm going to get you into the third quarter. I'll make sure you get some reps. Third quarter would come around. Well, the dynamics of the game changed. So I can't get you in. So I really respected that from him because he was like, listen, this is what I want to do. But everything is subject to change. And that's what I tell my students. It may snow one day. Somebody gets sick. You know what? I drank too much the night before. I didn't finish the lecture, So everything is subject to change, right? And I think the coach needs to say that. Because nobody's out to get you, Shedeur Sanders. Nobody's out to ruin your career, Deion Sanders. That's kind of the way it is.
Yeah. Don't play the victim. I like that a lot. If you were to drop somebody, because you mentioned locker rooms, and I thought of this. If you were to drop some of today's modern day players into your Patriots locker room from the dynasty era, what do you think would shock them the most? What would be the most jarring thing for today's player?
Wow, good question, Pete. What would be the most jarring? I think it would just be what we talked about, just lack of empathy. I think empathy and sympathy, and people think they're the same. They're not. They're completely different.
What do you mean by that? People think like as far as there's levels to this, right?
Well, how can if you just dropped a pass, empathy? I if I've never dropped a pass, one, I would never know. I wouldn't know how you feel, and if you dropped a pass in the Super Bowl, I'd never was thrown a pass in a Super Bowl. So how would I know how you really feel if I've never done it? Sympathy is different. Sympathetic is like, listen, I'm sorry. I hope you're doing okay. Like, do you need anything? It's totally different. And that's what I would think, that there was a lack of that, like empathy and sympathy when I was playing. It was really, and I kind of admired that. I kind of liked it because I grew up like that, So
yeah.
I wasn't a stranger to it. My kids now, like I got 5 kids and they all play sports, and they're always like, you're so mean and you're so tough. And, like, listen, I have high standards. I'm not going to apologize for them. And I'm not going to allow you to do it either, and they all struggle. When they get a coach that is like that, like Bill, they all struggle. Like if they get someone who's like Mike, who is like Pete Carroll, who everybody thinks is a big softie, like Pete's not a softie, like, and Mike's not a softie. Like they are compassionate, right? They are sympathetic, but they expect a lot. Bill he was just like this, like didn't deviate at all.
Does a guy like Christian Fauria, is he able to, when his kids are pissed at him, can you shake that off and just keep rolling into life, or do you carry that with you? How do you navigate that?
Dude, I don't even know. I don't even know. I tell you what, oh my God, like that is a challenge to this day. I have learned, like, so my youngest now is 13 and she's just getting ready to go to high school. I would see the one thing I get more than anything is the eye roll. I get a lot of eye rolling, and I tried to tell them, I said, like, I was pretty good at this. I know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The greatest coaching tool that I have, that I use, is like video. Like I try to show them, like, forget about me. This is what you look like. And that seems to be.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But even then, Pete, it's like, each kid's got, imagine this. Imagine you're coaching, like I have 5 kids and their personalities are extremely different, highs and lows, and their skill level is different, and what they need and their coaching situation was different. Imagine having like 60 of those guys, 100 of those guys on a football. Imagine the popsicle headache you would get trying to navigate that. It's amazing.
Take me back onto the football field. Drake Maye's development this year, if you could use one word to summarize it, what is it?
Ooh, I mean, this is probably lazy, but he's elite. Like, and people throw elite around like it's candy, and he is high level elite, like C-suite level CEO type. He's just he's so unbelievable. His personality is perfect for this position. And I don't know, maybe it's because he's the youngest of 4 boys. I don't know, but he's obviously very intelligent. He's extremely bright. He's tough as hell. He's not an error repeater. If he messes up once, and if you correct him, he usually figures it out, and you're not going to catch him twice. So I mean, it's from a physical standpoint, he's very gifted.
Yeah.
But the quarterback of a team needs to, like Dak Prescott, I think is a great example of a CEO. He carries himself well. He walks well. He looks good. He's not that he's attractive, but like he knows. You look at him, you go, "Wow, this guy can be a leader of a company." Right. Yes. People will follow him. Right. He's very careful with his words. He never blames anybody.
Seems to be unflappable. He'll turn it over, and then the next series, it's erased. I appreciate that about Dak and about Drake Maye.
Yeah. I mean, there's other guys too, but I always hate it. Like, I was a leader in college. I was a leader in the pros. I've always been a captain, or no matter where I go. And I always want my kids to be captains. Right. And with that comes a certain burden and a responsibility that a lot of people don't want anything to do with. Because there's so much scrutiny on them, and then you become a jerk and nobody wants to listen to you. But I think that, with Drake, he's young, so he's not as vocal. He's bright enough to know that there's other guys in the room that can speak better with more knowledge, right? So he's only in his 2nd year, and so he recognizes that. Listen, it's hard to do. And then when he does speak, he says just enough. And listen, the New England region is Drake Maye psychotic right now. Like, it is amazing. He actually came to Bryant University to speak, right? Through this program that the school has and the students have. They sold that place out. They were going, he's like a rock star. I mean, he's the most un-rock star guy you could ever imagine. Drives a truck. There's no real flash about him. He doesn't carry a Louis Vuitton bag. He doesn't have, $500 sunglasses. He's already married. Not like that means anything, but in my head, I'm like, he ain't going out at night. He ain't looking for anything. Yeah. He none of that stuff. So, and, I just think I think they really, golly, man, they hit that pick on the nose.
God, that is so. A couple more questions for you because I've already kept you pretty long. When you look at the Patriots this weekend against the Bills, obviously a huge game. Look, we talked about it off the top. A chance to win the division. When you look at this team long term this season, and this is maybe a lazy question to steal from you, but like, what is the ceiling? Like, is this a team that could win the Super Bowl?
The Patriots, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, that's not hyperbole. That's not an exaggeration. I think I would say just stick to the AFC. Let's talk about going to the Super Bowl. Let's not worry about winning it. I think they absolutely can go to the Super Bowl. I look at all the AFC teams. I don't think there's any team in the AFC that I'm like, holy crap. They have it at all three phases. I would say 4 phases, right? Defense, offense, special teams, coach, right? Because some of them have two of the 4, and they're missing the coach, right? But yeah, absolutely. Now there are some teams that I would say scare me based on I think the issues that the Patriots are going to have, if they won against the Houston Texans, right? They can't block them. Their front 5, they can't block them, especially the left side with 2 rookies. They're going to struggle. But I would say, all right, if you tell me that, I would say, well, Josh McDaniels is pretty good at creating and dealing with those types of scenarios. And if you win, if you get home field advantage, you're not going to have to go to Houston. So don't even worry about it. The other aspect I would say is, they just have the other like cliche that people use is complementary football. I hear every analyst say it. I don't think they know what it even means. And for an example, what usually happens is like any coach, if he's worth anything, will recognize the situation and go like, okay, holy crap, they got Peyton Manning, they got Patrick Mahomes. Like, we can't. Our drives have to be long. They have to be, we need to run the ball, right? So we have to commit to running the ball, and then even to pair that, we're going to snap the ball with 2 seconds left on the clock. So we would practice it when we played against Peyton Manning. We can't give him extra possessions. And when it comes to 4-minute offense, we can't give him the ball back. No, we can't give him 10 seconds. So there was an added amount of pressure on the offensive coordinator to create an offense that would complement the defense and based on what they needed to do to give them a break, to make it easier on them, right? So if you get them off the field on 3rd down, you can't go 3 and out. They haven't taken a drink of it. So that's kind of, I think that and to answer your question after a long-winded answer, is
great answer though.
Absolutely, Pete. Absolutely can go to the Super Bowl. This isn't the fly-by-night. I mean, they have some issues like every team, but I think they can manage theirs better than other teams that would be in the playoffs.
All right, one more for you. Another one that'll hit close to home. I was lucky enough to call a handful of games with another Buffalo, Chad Brown, and Colorado Buffalo. Chad was on with us last week, and I asked him, what is the fix for Colorado with all that's going on? Last year was so exciting, but as somebody who covers the conference and has called some games of theirs, I felt like it was finite. I did. I didn't know that we were long for that experience. And this next year, or this year, has kind of shown some holes in the overall football program. What do you think lies next for Colorado? And if you think there's issues, like how would you fix it? What do you think the remedy is?
Well, that's a loaded question. My quick answer is that I'd get a new coach.
Okay. Yeah.
Get a new coach. I think what Dan has done in the short term is pretty fantastic. I just don't know how committed he is, to that job. Too much turnover, too much. Every team deals with loss of players, but I feel like the messaging is inconsistent. His knowledge of the game, I think, is subpar at best. All you have to do is watch the end of the games. Marketing wise, he's done wonders for that school. They got a big monitor, big screen right at the end zone, right? They're in debt. So I just don't know what you're selling. I don't. And if you're going to be the face of the program, then you have to be, you have to be in the guts of the program. You have to be there every day. That has to be all you do. And you can't constantly, turn over your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator. I don't know, dude. I just feel like, I feel like it's a mess. And, and that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with it. I don't know anybody on that staff. I just watching it from afar, I'm not impressed.
All right, last question for you. I appreciate your candor on that answer too. Last question. I love college football, right? I feel like it's in my bones, but like the transactional, like even now, like with the whole thing, the Sherrone Moore thing. Okay, that sucks. It's such a shame. But now we have this job opening up at Michigan, and they're talking about Kalen DeBoer, who's the head coach of Alabama, who when you and I were growing up, what other job would a college football coach want? And now we're talking about a guy coaching at Alabama who would maybe leave in the midst of a playoff run. And I get it. At some point in time, all these coaches are getting fired. So they're trying to do what's best for them. But that alongside with the player movement, like, have you noticed a shift that I guess like kind of has put a bug up your ass like it has mine? And I think that's an example of me kind of getting a little older too. I try to be really introspective, but there is like, it's like, dude, like there's no loyalty anywhere anymore. It kind of blows my mind.
I won't watch it anymore. I'm done with college football. Like the product, I can't watch it. And I love college football. I love that aspect of it. But the adults have fucked it up so badly. They have absolutely messed this up, like beyond belief. The greed, the bias, the jealousy, the envy, all of it makes me sick. It's sick. Like the networks that like have their hands in everything, and like the committee, it's like who votes. It's like it's just they all exist in imagination land. I can't stomach it anymore, right? I just the money. It's just, oh God, dude. I just like, again, I'll go back. I actually in one of my classes, I challenged the students. One of their midterm projects was to fix the NCAA and fix college football. That was their project. I gave them all the excuses, all these reasons of how screwed up it is, and went over whole days, 2 days, 2 weeks worth of information, and none of them could fix it. None of them. It was like a capstone, and that's my point with it. I just, even like recently with the how they decide like who plays. I can't stand it anymore. That's why I love the NFL. The NFL is just real simple. We can sit here and be like, who do you think is going to make it? Who's going to win the AFC East or AFC North? Like, what do you think about who do you think? You think Cincinnati can figure it out? We're just playing house. We're just in imagination land, but we really have no say. We have absolutely no say on who goes and when and why. Zero.
The players in the play on the field decide.
That's it. That's all that matters. And so college football, to me, I'm embarrassed for it. Like I wanted, like, it makes me sick to not only see what it's turned into. And I knew once they made this rule, once the NIL became a thing, and the whole Ed O'Bannon case, really, you saw the benefit of Ed O'Bannon and what he did in
the name, image, and likeness stuff and all that.
And then now I was like, man, they can't. They just, that's Pandora's box. There's not a chance in hell that they're ever going to be able to control this. And I don't see it ever ending. It's just, and maybe it's good for the sport. Maybe us disagreeing, yelling and screaming, and complaining is good for the sport. To me, I have no desire to even watch it. I think this was my last year. I'm officially tapping out.
Well, guess what? You ain't tapping out of here. You're coming back at some point, dude. Seriously, Christian, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the energy, the intellect. You've been in my life for a long time, and to finally meet you is real cool, man. Christian Fauria, I cannot thank you enough.
Yeah, listen, this is like therapy for me. I just got so much off my chest. You asked me about Colorado, Deion Sanders. Wow, that's going to get some play. Get rid of the coach. I'm sure they're all going to like that. He's the problem. College football in general. I mean, coaching, all this stuff. I love it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we share a lot of the same opinions, so I appreciate it. It was therapy for me too, Christian. Take care, man. And anything you need to plug, anything going on with you? I mean, I know you're on TV all the time. Any next place people can see you? Anything?
You will see me at the Super Bowl.
Okay.
If any of your listeners or anybody's there, I'm taking 10 students. We are creating our own Radio Row sports radio show. So I will have 3 different shows taking up 6 hours down in San Francisco. Yeah, I just created a whole specialized program, advanced broadcasting program. So so if you're down there, let's do this.
Our boy Chris Visser's leading the charge. We'll see you out there, man. Thank you so much, Christian. I appreciate you, dude.
All right, see you guys.
Wow. That was pretty amazing. Christian Fauria, he is always, dynamite on the football field. And every time he's on TV, you can't take your eyes off him. And the fact that he was on this show, dropping knowledge like that, makes me feel pretty good today. I think we're pretty fortunate to have had a guy like that on. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back, wrap this up on a Friday from Flower Mound. We are presented by Slovacics. Scotty Swingler, take us to break.